And who did you meet upon your arrival there?
I was met by the requesting officer, Michael Proctor. In that case, it was Michael Proctor.
Michael Proctor had requested Michael Proctor instructed. Where did you see Michael Proctor? Who was monitoring Michael Proctor? How long Michael Proctor had?
What nobody anticipated is that Karen is going to hire a very powerful team of lawyers, and now Proctor was like, uh-oh. Remember that photograph of Colin Albert going out like a day or a couple days later, and he's got those bloody knuckles, and he's got the two buddies intentionally to show, like, hey, this is what happens when you F around, mess around with the Alberts. Please stop calling me with ideas and things that I need to pass along to the Karen Reed team. I'm being sincere. Please stop. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up, It's the Law. Folks, today we are going to continue with the Karen Reed trial in May of 2025. Direct examination and cross-examination of none other than Zachary Clark. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment below. If you have any questions, please feel free. I am following the comments very closely, and I am trying to answer whenever I can. So, without further ado, let's dive right in to the direct and cross of Clark. Let's go!
Commonwealth seeks to introduce two clips.
There's innuendo here that you guys have really been going at it. This was sort of had like a last date element to it. Was that going on?
That was not going on. John made it clear to me, I'm never breaking up with you. Not never that we're in this good or bad, but you're the best person I've ever.
I don't think, I don't see how John would have known about my text with Ryan. And I'm not sure if he knew he would have reacted very strongly. I think we would have broken up, but I don't think John would have lost it and caused a fight. I didn't feel like John's emotions with me got really strong.
Now, sir, were you working with the State Police Crime Scene Services section on February 1st, 2022?
This is trial number 1, direct, of this guy. If you can hear, that's Lally's voice in the background there. Unless I'm missing something, unless he did trial number 2. We'll find out.
Yes, I was.
And where were you requested to go on that date?
I was requested to respond to the Canton Police Headquarters.
And who did you meet upon your arrival there?
I was met by the requesting officer, Michael Proctor.
And what was the purpose, or what was described to you initially as the purpose of you responding to that location?
The request was made for me to assist in documenting a search warrant that was being executed on a vehicle housed at the police department.
And what was it that you were asked to document at that location?
Namely, it was Karen Reed's vehicle.
And where was that vehicle located within the Canton Police Department?
It was in the garage bay.
Now, can you describe to the jury the process of your documentation or memorialization of that vehicle that morning?
Typically, upon arrival, I would consult with the requesting officer to determine the scope of the search warrant. In that case, it was Michael Proctor. He described that the vehicle was being searched for a variety of things, to include biological evidence, communication devices, alcohol containers, receipts, infotainment center data, etc. He asked me to document the vehicle with digital photographs. I then consulted with the forensic scientist who was present as well to determine the order in which the vehicle would be documented and processed. I began by documenting the vehicle's exterior with photographs prior to any manipulation or movement, and then proceeded to document the interior and its contents.
Now, any items that were seized during the execution of that search warrant, how were they photographed prior to being seized?
They're photographed in place prior to being moved.
Now, what kind of instruments or tools do you use typically while photographing items for crime scene services?
The main piece of equipment we would use is a digital camera. We wear protective equipment, namely gloves and a mask typically, often a scale, so that the images can be calibrated to true size upon examination later. Sometimes placards or ruler tape replaced on items of interest or items that will be collected.
Now, on this occasion, you mentioned Maureen Hartnett from the crime lab was present there as well.
That's correct, sir.
And what did you observe her doing as far as any sort of documentation with relation to certain things or items or areas of the vehicle?
My recollection is that she was chiefly concerned with the exterior of the vehicle, namely the rear right corner, and she was looking for DNA and trace evidence, I believe.
And as far as, was there any delineation that you saw her place on the vehicle with respect to certain areas of the vehicle?
Yes, she marked various locations on the vehicle with ruler tape.
Now, in addition to the photographs, what else did you do with respect to the vehicle?
I was also asked to process the front right passenger compartment of the vehicle for friction ridge impressions.
Now, what is a friction ridge impression?
A replica or an impression of the friction ridge skin on the hands or the feet. They're formed through ridges and furrows or hills and valleys, and they're unique to every individual. In the hundreds of years that fingerprints have been studied, no two individuals have ever been determined to have the same fingerprints.
Now, just briefly, can you describe for the jury that process of how you do that?
I would document the vehicle with photographs first, and then determine what medium would be used to process the vehicle. In this case, white fingerprint powder was selected. The particular area processed was relatively small. It was the front passenger compartment, interior and exterior. I focused on surfaces that are more conducive to friction ridge impressions. Certain surfaces are far more conducive than others. Typically, non-porous surfaces like glass, polished metal, dash surfaces are better for impressions, more likely to yield impressions than porous surfaces, which is items like paper or unfinished wood.
Now, upon that initial documenting of the vehicle, were you asked to go anywhere else?
Yes, I was also requested to respond to 34 Fairview Road in Canton and take overall photographs of a scene.
And when you say overall photographs, can you describe to the jury what your understanding of that term is?
Overall photographs are essentially just like they sound. They're typically taken from a distance. They're not examination level photographs. They're general area photographs. This particular case, it was an outdoor scene. I was directed where to focus my attention, and I took a series of photographs of that area.
Now, did anyone go with you there?
Not that I recall.
And when you say your area, your attention was directed to certain areas, where was your attention focused?
The requesting officer explained that upon my arrival, I would see an area in the front lawn or close to the street at that address where a significant amount of snow had been partially cleared away near a flagpole. He asked that I take overall photographs of that area, given the lighting was preferable, and to focus on the front of the residence, that cleared area, and the street around it.
And Trooper Clark, what do you recall in reference to the snow accumulation on the area of the lawn near the flagpole at 34 Fairview Road on that date of February 1st?
My recollection is that there was a significant amount of snow present. Snow banks were apparent from what I presume to be plowing. There was an area that did appear to be cleared and heavily trodden by footwear and tires. Still, even in that area, there was a significant amount of snow with certain spots of grass showing.
Now, while you were there, sir, did you or anyone else do any sort of excavation of that front lawn area?
No.
Now, in addition to the photographs that you took initially at the Canton Police Department, what else did you memorialize with reference to the vehicle that day?
They took general photographs of the vehicle, the contents. At one point, a bag was presented to me with evidence by one of the Canton officers.
The Stop and
Let me
Shop
ask it
bag?
this way, sir. At some point, you mentioned there was a reconstruction trooper who was present at the Canton Police Department, correct?
That's correct.
And so what, if anything, did you document with respect to that reconstruction trooper outside of the Canton Police Department?
Trooper Joe Paul asked while I was there to
Trooper Paul.
document a series of brake and acceleration tests.
By the way, folks, if you have not seen my breakdown of Trooper Paul's testimony, oh my goodness. you are missing out. You definitely want to go check it out. It's in the playlists. It is the most incompetent reconstruction officer, trooper, whatever you want to call him, that I have ever done, ever seen, ever like dissected. Trust me when I say this, you want to go see it. There's a lot of good stuff on my channel, don't get me wrong. Obviously, I'm biased. It's my channel. And of course, don't forget to subscribe before you head over there. Trust me, you want to watch Trooper Paul. Trust me. It is so good because he is so bad. And that's from trial number 1. I can't wait when he takes the stand in trial number 2. And I think I misspoke earlier. This is trial number 2. I just don't know why Lally is doing it. Unless I'm missing something. But this feels like it's trial number 2. But I could be wrong.
With digital video that he was performing with the same vehicle. I was also asked to take photographs and video of the vehicle's backup warning system, which was activated as they performed some tests.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
This is the crime scene photos.
And what's contained on that disc, is that a fair and accurate portrayal of what you observed both inside and outside the Camden Police Department with respect to Miss Reed's vehicle, as well as the scene at 34 Fairview on February 1st?
I presume it is.
And Sergeant Clark, do you see what's depicted up on the screen?
And by the way, both Lally and Brennan don't know rule number 1. You never turn your back to the audience. That's rule number 1 of acting. You never turn your back on the audience. The audience are your jurors. You never turn your back on them, ever. And yet, you see when Jackson or Yannetti or Alessi come up, they always stand next to the witness and they are kind of angled to the side towards the jury. Both Lally and Brennan just turn their backs on the jury looking at the witness and the judge. Extremely unprofessional and extremely... well, it just shows that they have not studied acting, clearly. I mean, we already know that, but neither have I. I mean, a little bit, but come on. It's the basic rule. Never turn your back on your audience.
And from this photograph, just above the steering wheel on the right-hand side, what do you observe there?
Vehicle's odometer reading.
And is that what the odometer read as far as when you took this photograph outside of the Canton Police Station on February 1st?
Yes, it is.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have 2617. And again, Ms. Gilman, if you could just zoom in a little on the center of that photograph. And again, Sergeant, if you could describe for the jury what we're looking at in this photograph.
This is a mid-range photograph of the vehicle's display screen, the center console.
Hold up. I just got an idea. The black box and the Lexus SUV, can't that be tested to determine when, if anything, has there been impact? Because we know that the taillight shattered when Karen Reed was backing out of her driveway and she hit the left rear of the car that was parked there. That's what cracked her taillight, and later Proctor and Buchanan and whoever, broke it and scattered the pieces. Can't they pull the black box from the Lexus SUV? Wouldn't it have the data of the time of the impact? And obviously it won't be 1234 because that never happened, or whatever. 1236, 1238, like in that range. Remember, 1225 is when she drops him off. And then the allegation is it happens somewhere around there, like 1225 to like 1245, something like that. So in that 20-minute range. And the black box will show absolutely no activity relevant to impact, and it will show that the impact happened in a different time. Would that not automatically kill, at least on paper, would that not automatically kill the government's case? I mean, I know I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm sure the defense has already looked at this, but doesn't the black box have any impact data, collision data? Maybe not. I don't know. Just an idea. I'm certain they've thought of this before. I know I'm not the first one to think of it. And by the way, folks, for the love of Benji, I've asked this before and it's clearly not working. I'm going to ask it again. Please stop calling me with ideas and things that I need to pass along to the Karen Reed team. I'm being sincere. I'm not trying to be a jerk here. Please stop. You are not gaining any ground, I delete those messages. I don't listen to them. Those emails, I don't read them. I don't have time, okay? It's like the Johnny Depp trial all over again. Larry, I have information you need to pass along to the defense team. Only back then, thank God, it was limited to, you know, Twitter DMs, which I now have closed. You have to have a check mark to reach out to me. So you found a roundabout way. You're calling my office. You're literally calling my office, my work office, to leave me messages about YouTube videos. And yes, I know I do have a special inbox for that, but that's not what it's for. That's not for you to just give you carte blanche to reach out to me, because some of you are actually wasting my minutes, and I am actually paying money for you all to leave these messages, and it's just not fair. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to Karen. It's not fair to my employees. They are wasting their time listening to these messages. So please, please stop. You're not helping me. I am not passing along your messages to the defense team. I am not going to use this information. If you have an idea for a video, like let's say, for instance, I had this one very recently messaged me on Facebook, a compare and contrast from trial number 1, discrepancy. Discrepancies I will take. If you truly find something that, like witness number 1, because I'm going to make a short out of it, so thank you, kind stranger, for that information. There was one inconsistency about the dog. You'll see what I mean. From trial number 1 and trial number 2, two different witnesses, because obviously they're lying about it, so there are going to be inconsistencies. So those, you know, again, don't call me, don't email me, like message me maybe on Instagram or Facebook, that's fine. But please stop calling me and stop emailing me. I don't read them, I don't respond to them, I don't listen to them. I just I start playing them and it's like, can you pass a message along to Larry about the Karen? Delete. Don't be offended. I don't have time. I am not a full-time YouTuber. I am a part-time YouTuber. I am a full-time attorney. I have made this message before. Clearly, it fell on deaf ears. Therefore, I'm spending time. Yes, I know it's annoying. Get back to the video, Larry. We got it. I don't care. Well, I care. Okay? I'm getting back to the video in about a second. Stop.
With the,
Thank you.
what I would describe as the backup warning system activated as the vehicle approaches a pedestrian.
And lastly, Ms. Gilman, the next photograph, which is 2618. And again, Sergeant, what are we looking at in this photograph?
More or less the same as the last photograph, sir.
Closer up image than the prior photograph, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take that down.
Good morning, Trooper.
Good morning, sir.
Your earliest involvement in this case
Okay,
was on
this is definitely trial number 2. I guess Lally decided to take that witness, and this is the cross of Yannetti. This is still trial 2.
February 1st of 2022.
That's correct.
You ended up, and by the way, at that time, you were a trooper assigned to the crime scene services section,
That's correct.
and that was in which town in Massachusetts?
Where I was assigned, sir?
Yes,
Maynard.
Maynard, okay. About a year later, you actually joined the Norfolk CPAC unit, or the Norfolk Detectives Unit, correct?
That's correct.
And when you joined the Norfolk CPAC unit, Lieutenant Brian Tully was the supervisor of that unit, was he not?
Yes, he was.
You are still with that unit, correct?
That's correct.
So you've been there for approximately 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years.
That's correct.
And so you were there when Lieutenant Tully was removed as the supervisor of that unit, correct?
That's sustained, and folks should to disregard that.
Now, if I could request an instruction.
Jurors, pay no attention to that question or answer. That is not properly before you with this witness.
Is Lieutenant Tully still the supervisor of that unit?
Yes.
I'm going to see you at sidebar for just a minute.
Seriously? Why is that an improper question? He is or he's not.
So, going back to February 1st of 2022, you learned that Michael Proctor had called your unit, resulting in your involvement in this case on that date, correct?
That's right.
And Michael Proctor had requested that you go to the Canton Police Station?
That's correct.
At the time, were you aware that
I
the
don't get
Canton
it.
Police Station, or the Canton Police Department, I should say, had a conflict of interest with this investigation?
Objection.
Rephrase it. Rephrase it.
Well, were you aware, when you were called out on this case, that John O'Keefe had been found mortally wounded on Brian Albert's lawn?
I was advised of that fact upon my arrival.
Okay. And
I
you
love
were-
that question, by the way. Were you aware that that John O'Keefe was mortally wounded on Brian Albert's lawn? It just kind of reminds the jurors the location where John O'Keefe was found. I like that a lot.
Were you advised of the fact that Brian Albert's brother was a Canton police detective?
I did not know that.
Still, it was the Canton Police Station and not a state police barracks where Michael Proctor instructed you to go, correct?
That's right.
Was he there before you, or did you arrive there before him?
He was there before me.
When you got there, where did you see Michael Proctor within the Canton Police Department?
Inside the garage bay.
Another thing, I made this comment, I think a couple of videos ago, about the Ring camera video. And there was just one theory that really developed in the last few days that I read about on Twitter. What if the reason Higgins went to Canton Police Department in the first place was because Brian Albert did have a Ring camera? I mean, come on, he's a cop. He's a cop with a trained attack dog. Of course he's going to have a Ring camera. And so they realized, like, ooh, we may have screwed the pooch on this because there's going to be no evidence of... At the time, I don't think they knew that it's going to be Karen who they're going to pin it on. Or maybe they did. Who knows? At that time, getting inside the mind of criminals conspiring together is very difficult. It's after the fact that a lot of this happened. So clearly, Brian Albert had a Ring camera. What if that Ring camera had a secondary storage in Canton PD? You know, just in case, because he's a cop, you know, whatever. His brother is a cop, Canton PD. And what if the reason Brian Higgins went to Canton PD so quickly and so early in the morning to move cars around was actually a cover for him to erase and delete any Ring camera footage that may have been transmitted to Canton PD to make sure that there is no paper trail, video trail of the fact that the accident, you know, namely Karen hitting John because it never happened. There is no evidence that it never happened, that it's all going to be speculative. It's possible. It's a very plausible theory.
And is that also called a sally port?
Yes.
And when you got there, was Michael Proctor the one to direct you to the Lexus SUV?
Yes.
And when you got there on February 1st, that was the first time that you laid eyes on that vehicle, correct?
Yes, it is.
There was no other investigator from the State Police Detectives Unit or the CPAC unit there with the Lexus SUV except for Michael Proctor, correct?
There were other investigators from the Norfolk District Attorney's Office present that morning.
In any case, you had no personal knowledge prior to your arrival of how long Michael Proctor had been with that SUV before you got there, correct?
That's right.
You have no personal knowledge about whether anyone was monitoring Michael Proctor while he was near the vehicle before you got there.
That's correct.
And before you got there, you had no idea how much access Michael Proctor had to that vehicle, right?
Correct.
Your assignment was to take photographs and to process the passenger's compartment in particular for fingerprints.
Correct.
And you did that.
Yes, I did.
Bless you. About a year and a half after that, on July 18th of 2023, you participated in this investigation again, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And that was because, in part, you had now joined the Norfolk CPAC unit, correct?
Correct.
And you participated in an interview of Colin Albert at the Norfolk DA's office, right?
That's right.
You knew at the time that Colin Albert was the nephew of the homeowner, Brian Albert? Objection.
I'll allow that. Did you know that at the time?
Could you rephrase the question?
Sure. At the time that you were called in for this interview and told that you would be participating in an interview of Colin Albert, you knew that he was Brian Albert's nephew, correct?
I was advised that prior to the interview, yes.
You conducted that interview along with Michael Proctor, correct?
Correct.
At the time, Michael Proctor was a state trooper in that unit, correct?
Yes, he was.
And you knew he was also the lead investigator on the case, correct?
He was the case officer, yes.
At the time of that interview on July 18th, before you began questioning of Colin Albert, had Michael Proctor revealed to you his connections with the Albert family? Let me approach.
Go on to the next area. Let's see if we can come back.
Another thought just hit me. I guess I'm filled with interesting thoughts this morning. Remember that photograph of Colin Albert going out like a day or a couple days later at the end of January or beginning of February, and he's got those bloody knuckles, and he's got like two buddies, one on the left, one on the right, and he's just hugging them very closely. I wonder, because of this family, it's a criminal family, they pride themselves on being feared, being revered as a crime family. I wonder if the Alberts truly thought that they were completely untouchable. You know, Proctor's our buddies helping us out, Tully, Buchanan, and Paul and Guarino, all of them, the whole lot of them, they're all working in cahoots, they're all working together, they're all protecting one another. Colin Albert felt impenetrable. He felt that he is completely untouchable, and he actually, during that photograph, he flaunted the fist, the bloody fist, intentionally to show, like, hey, this is what happens when you mess around with the Alberts. Fuffo, you know, screw around, F around, find out. Don't mess with us. This guy messed with us, and now look at him, he's dead. It was almost like a pride thing. Like, this is what we do to people who try and stab us in the back or whatever. It's very plausible. This is how mafia operates. They display the heads that they take on stakes like they did back in medieval times. They don't hide from it. To the contrary, they take pride in it. They highlight it. They showcase it. That's how they stay in power. That's how you maintain power when you're a crime family. It's very interesting. It's very possible that that's what. I don't think it was an accident. It was in a fist because Colin was highlighting it. Look what I did, because he was completely untouchable, or so he thought.
Did Michael Proctor reveal to you that he and Kevin Albert had socialized together by drinking alcohol in his cruiser?
Sustained injuries. I'm going to ask you to strike that question. Disregard.
I need to be heard at sidebar.
These are good questions.
Sir, when you went with Michael Proctor to interview Colin Albert, you knew that the case originated on January 29th of 2022?
I was aware of that.
And the date that you conducted that interview was July 18th of 2023?
That's correct.
Wow.
Did you ever ask Michael Proctor why he waited a year and a half to
half.
interview Colin Albert?
I did not.
Once that interview was concluded, one of the two of you had to write a report to document what Colin Albert...
And we all know what happened. The reason Proctor had to interview Colin Albert 18 months after the murder is because people started asking questions. See, in the beginning, they're like, we're just going to bury it. No one's going to ask any questions. It's just a dead cop. No one's going to pay it, which is ludicrous in and of itself. But no one's going to ask any questions. Why? Because we're going to cover it up, we're going to bury it, and it's going to be forgotten in history. What nobody anticipated is that Karen is going to hire a very powerful team of lawyers. And now Proctor was like, let me just do my due diligence, quote unquote, and kind of try and pretend like, oh no, look, there is potential evidence, maybe, kind of, sort of, that Colin may have been involved. Oh no, what do I do? Hey Colin, did you do it? No. All right, cool. Well, interview concluded. I'm gonna go get some donuts. Colin, you want it? I mean, I don't know you. Okay, bye.
had told you, correct?
That's correct.
And Michael Proctor, as the lead investigator, was the one to write the report, correct?
Michael Proctor wrote that report.
You did not write it.
Correct.
He chose the language to use in that report, correct?
Correct.
And you weren't standing over him while he was typing it up, correct?
Correct.
And he wrote that report to his supervisor without running every word by you, correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever review that report to check whether it was accurate?
Not before it was published.
And the only other thing I have for you, sir, is you were called to photograph evidence on February 1st. Were you ever asked to go to 34 Fairview Road on February 8th to photograph and document evidence supposedly found on that day?
No, I was not.
Were you ever asked to go to 34 Fairview Road to document any evidence on February 10th?
No, I wasn't.
How about February 11th?
No, sir.
And then on February 18th, nearly 3 weeks after January 29th, did anybody contact you to ask you to come out and photograph and document evidence that was supposedly found 3 weeks later?
Ask it differently, Ms.
Yes.
Giannetti.
Were you called out to 34 Fairview Road on February 18th of 2022 to photograph and document anything?
February 1st was the only date I was called to 34 Fairview, sir.
So the answer to my question is no, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Fascinating. Very interesting. All right, folks, that concludes another video, and we're going to continue. We have a lot of Buchanan and Higgins content that we need to get through, and I'll be releasing that over the next few days. We're going to continue in the same fashion, 1 p.m., all in Eastern time, by the way, 1 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m. We're going to continue moving along with this trial, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.